I am ready. Hey everybody. Hey guys, Aaron here. So today I want to talk to you guys about, in my opinion, one of the most important skills when it comes to going faster on a mountain bike. Apart from certain riding techniques, body positioning, all that stuff, this is something different that is basically always kind of the biggest thing on my mind when I'm riding a trail, what I'm looking forward. So what I'm talking about specifically is trying to begin to train you guys and your minds and how you see a trail to use the whole trail, instead of looking at just whatever the most burned in line is. So a lot of times, for example, when I go to local races, say this was the racetrack, there'll be tape on this side of the track, tape on this side of the track, and usually there's a main line that's burned in right down the center. And the more that line gets burned in, the more people tend to focus just on where everybody's riding, and you tend to miss that there's oftentimes, 6 inches to maybe 5 feet on either side of the main line that is also rideable, and a lot of times the better lines are found there. So today I want to kind of explain that process, what to look for in starting to open up the track and open up lines, and specifically when it comes to straightening out the trail. So we've got 2 sections of trail today, one that's a little bit more rockier, a little bit more advanced, and then another one that is really basic, super smooth, and I'll basically show you how people are starting to get sucked into the main line on both of these when there's a much better option just by moving over a little bit, which is going to straighten out the trail, allow you to miss the bumps, carry more momentum down the trail because you're not turning as much and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here we are, first section. This section of trail is going to be kind of the slightly rougher section of the two, and the second section we'll show later will make a lot more sense once we show it. But basically we have a section of trail that's going to cover everything we just talked about. There is a very burned in, obvious main line that is going to basically sweep through this left-hand corner into the right-hand corner. And there is a much straighter, smoother, simpler, all-around better line. A lot of times these lines end up being actually easier to ride because you're doing a lot less stuff. You just have to know what to look for. So this one is made a little bit more complicated because basically until you get to this part of the trail, you can't actually see the straight line. So it's something that you kind of have to see pretty quickly and be able to adjust for, especially if this was a racetrack, you would do multiple runs on this. You would be able to see this in track walk or maybe in practice. For today, as we walk down here, you can see this line. The track basically opens up to be, about 10 feet wide once you get down here. You have this main line that is following this sweep over these rocks all the way to the outside and then really shooting you straight into the corner, which is not what we want. Is every time you can get more set up for the corner, that is to say, the further outside you can get coming into the corner, the better, because you're gonna widen up the turn. It's not gonna be so sharp, so you can carry more speed. So this is just a great example of basically one of those trails where the main line really gets sucked out here to the outside. You're creating a whole left turn here, which doesn't even need to be here, when you could kind of just go straight up the inside. And then once you get down here to the actual turn, you can see there's a big difference in basically how much smoother this straight line is versus how rough the main line is. And when you get to the corner, the payoff in the angle that you come into the corner. Here, you're already set up for the corner. You're coming in at the same angle. Everything's all good. Here, you're actually steering back in. So if you were to fall this left-hand corner and go straight, your angle is gonna shoot you straight out that way. So you're almost like you're making the corner way sharper than it needs to be. You're adding a whole other turn in here that doesn't need to happen. So this same technique applies basically everywhere, whether it's a big difference like this or sometimes it's only maybe 6 inches or a foot of difference. And you can still do the same thing where you're getting out of the bumps, you're setting up just a little bit wider for the turn, and you can carry more speed. So we'll ride through both options a little bit and you guys will be able to see the difference, and then we'll move on to the next section. All right, so here we are at the second section of trail. This is a good example of what you will see at like a basic local race. And and nobody is basically applying what we've talked about and what we just showed in the last section, which is two things. Number one, most important, always setting up for your corners. The wider you can set up for your turn, the more speed you can carry through the turn. This is like almost the number one thing, like I said, that's always on my mind. So once you get past some of the beginner techniques, all that kind of stuff, when it comes to like, how do I practically make time on the trail, this is one of the absolute best, easiest ways. So always looking to set up wider for your corners so you open the turn up and you can carry more speed. And number two, how to straighten up the trail. Take out corners in the trail that don't need to be there. You can just straight line through stuff. And so a lot of times sections look like this, again, where you have a section of corners. Really the only turn that needs to be here is that right-hander down there. This left one is kind of a bonus, and it's been built up with shovels and it's kind of exaggerated and more kind of a fun thing maybe to hit than anything. But because I see sections just like this at local races all the time and everybody's going right down the main line, I thought I would show you just so you guys learn to kind of know what to look for. So perfect example in this section, you come in, we've got a little jump coming in. The main line goes all the way into this left-hand berm and really S's into the right-hand turn. And in reality, this left-hand turn basically doesn't need to happen at all. So when I ride this trail, I land off the double, I turn in a little bit earlier, I get all the way up on this bank up here and I straight line it all the way in here. And as you can see, there's tons of tire marks and skids and all kinds of stuff going on here. There's not even one tire mark up here on the straight line. So I'm gonna ride through it a couple of times so you can see it again, and then we'll kind of chat through it again at the end. Hot lines, baby. Now we want to move on to basically where the payoff is really going to happen for this. As we've talked about a little bit in other videos, the whole reason for setting up the entrance of your corner wide is to carry more speed through the corner and ultimately have more exit speed. In mountain biking especially, same thing with motocross and everything else, but even more in bicycles because we don't have a throttle. Whatever speed you can carry down the trail, it's a lot harder to get back because you gotta pedal to basically get it back. So the more you can maintain that speed, the faster you'll go. And when it comes to racing and stuff like that, that's really where a lot of your time is made, is how much speed you can carry through your corners and how much exit speed you can carry, because it really pays off down trail. So here, we'll run through that real quick. We've shown the setup now, lot straighter, smoother, less turns. You're getting set up better, so you're opening up the entrance of the corner so you can carry better speed through the corner. And now we'll show basically where the payoff of this. After this turn, there's a little bit of a straightaway and then a small double jump. If you hit this right, like we've just showed, you basically don't need to pedal at all and you make the jump easy. If you don't hit the setup and you hit both corners and it's sharp, you're not making that double without pedaling. So we'll rip through that real quick so you can really see where the speed is carrying on this trail, and then we'll just do a little wrap up at the end. Wrap it up, baby. All right, guys, so there you go. Again, something to me that is probably one of the most important skills to develop when you're trying to save time on the clock when riding downhill. So I hope that helps. Hope you learned something and give you something to think about when you guys are riding on your next ride. So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, peace. It's acceptable not to save time when you're like shooting photos or videos for a dramatic effect. Dramatic effect.